So you like driving around in a luxurious family SUV, but you also want to drive something electric. Maybe you're not a fan of stuff that's out right now. Maybe you think the tech's a bit premature or there's not enough charging stations. What do you do while you're waiting for that to come out? Well, you grab yourself one of these. Now, Volvo is not the only European car company making a luxury plug-in hybrid like this, but this thing is just a little bit more special than its competitors because it's a sleeper. This thing has over 450 horsepower combined with its electric and petrol powertrain. It has over 700 newton meters of torque and it can hit 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds. Now pricing, this thing starts from just under $100,000 for the car that we have here, and you throw in a few more optional extras like metallic paint, an air filter and a climate pack, and now you're looking at just over $100,000 for this car. Now we have those Thor hammer effect LED daytime running lights with nice bright LED headlamps in there as well, and they do corner very actively with your steering wheel, which is very nice. And now while this vent here on the left is fake, the one over on the right is actually real. And so yeah, this car has a pretty nice looking front end where we have 21-inch wheels with some pretty sizable brakes in there as well. They look quite nice, but I am a bit worried about them because they stick out a little bit from the rubber. So if you're not very careful at parking, they will look pretty ugly by the end of the week if you're scraping them along the curb. Now we do have some more black accents along the window trim up here on the roof rails and here on the side mirror. And we do have keyless entry and exit, and it's worth noting talking about this key because it's orange. Check that out. Well, there's two keys. One's black, one's orange, and this orange one you can program. So if you want to give this car to anyone that you don't really trust will stick to the speed limit or is going to blast your Bowers and Wilkins system on the inside, you can actually limit stuff like the speed and also the volume controls on the inside. So we have some very distinct looking Volvo taillights. I do think these are looking a little old. Some nice slick LEDs like we're seeing on the new EX90 would be quite nice. Then we also have some very minimalist badging as well. So we only have XC60, and then you have your model designation in this little rectangle here, and that's pretty much it. Your rear wipers placed up here. There's not really a too aggressive looking rear spoiler, but there is a slight one that you get, so it does look a bit nicer. And then down below, we don't have any fake exhaust, but we do have elements that sort of suggest this is where the exhaust would go if we were going to put one there. And then in terms of practicality, you can wipe your foot underneath the back here. Oh, there you go. And then it just pops open like that. I found that sort of little foot swipe to be a little bit hit and miss. We don't have a spare tire in here. Instead, we have a actual just little repair kit. And then we do have some additional little netting for the back seats. And we do have a nice cargo cover as well, which has some cool grooves so you can make that work in a couple of different ways. I also do like the netting we have back here for small items. That's been very handy, especially if you're just grabbing a few things from the shops. And so we get just over 400 liters in the boot here. So it is pretty practical. Our seats only fold in a 60-40 split, which I'm a bit disappointed with because I find that 40-20-40 split to be so much easier to live with, especially in an SUV of this size. And then we have some buttons that control the rear air suspension. So you can lower it or you can raise it to make it easier to really just do whatever you need to do back here. So these doors are nice and heavy. Now here in the door sill it says recharge, to remind you that this is the electric version of the XC60. And what I do like as well are these seats. They're super ergonomic. I love the leather type material and also the cloth material they're using in that. And there are plenty of adjustment for like the leg rest, your bolstering, all that sort of stuff. Now up here on the dash we have a nice sort of leather trimmed material, plenty of stitching as well, like the white contrast stitching goes nice with the white paint. And it continues down on the passenger side with this metal material going all the way around as the trim, which sort of lines up with the Bowers and Wilkins speakers, which looks quite nice. And you do have a subtle little Swedish flag sort of stamped in there as well. Now, I really do like these air vents. They have two pieces in them. So the metal piece sort of slides over the plastic, and that just feels quite nice. And they do have a very nice click to them. Very good. And then we also do have a little Bowers and Wilkins speaker up here as well. Now we have a heads-up display. We have a fully digital driver's display, which isn't super customizable. Really, you can just turn off the maps and see your trip information. It's meant to be really simple. Then we also have this vertical display here, which all has Google integration. So we have Google Maps on board, and we also have Google Assistant. So you can say something like, hey Google, turn on my heated seat.
Okay, turning on the seat heater for the driver.
Simple as that. It's really useful, especially for navigation when you're on the go. I really do like the integration with Google here. Now, it's also very easy to use this display in the middle. It's also very simple UI. You have a couple of different ways to interact with it. We do have hard buttons down below in the form of a giant volume knob. And we also have some little sort of play pause controls for your media, which I really like. And then below that, we have a little tiny little shifter here. You can get this a bit more fancy if you like. You can get like a crystal shifter, but this one still looks quite nice. It's got stitching running down the middle. And we also do have a little start engine stop knob. It's not a button, it's not a keyhole, it's literally just a knob that you sort of twist to the right and it starts the engine and stops it. Now, the back seats of the XC60 are actually very practical for one main feature. It's these booster seats. You can press on this button, they pop up like that, and you can use them as an actual child booster seat. And as I jump in here, as a 5'11" adult, I have plenty of feet room underneath the seat in front of me. I have pretty decent headroom as well, and I also have a nice giant glass roof to look out of. And if I want more airflow, we can actually open up this glass roof from the front, or if I don't want to see the sun, I can actually have that blind closed for me, which is very useful. Now, closing this door, I have a Bowers & Wilkins speaker here. I also have a window in the back that goes down most of the way. Now, here in the middle, we have two USB-C ports. We have a little tiny area which you could maybe rest a phone if you want to watch something or put keys or something like that. Now, here in the center armrest, we can use all of our armrests because our cup holders pop out like that. And there is a little ski pass through here in the middle, which is very useful. So yes, I know the seat doesn't fold down, but you can put some longer items like skis or any other things like that right through the middle, and that makes it just a tiny bit more practical. Start everything up, it's nice and quiet, except I can hear that motor in the background. That's because I've got a charging battery. I'm going to take it off charge for this little section. Basically what will happen is that motor will shut off now. Now we're on battery power. And so this car will start up silently all the time, and it's so nice and relaxing to jump into. That motor just sounds a bit coarse in the background. I'm not a big fan of how that sounds when it's on. It just sort of ruins the whole relaxed driving experience a tiny bit, but obviously that delivers plenty of power, and it's part of the reason why we can drive without having really needing to charge. Now, under the bonnet, we have a 2-liter petrol turbocharged and supercharged 4-cylinder, and that's paired up to a electric motor and battery. And that electric motor and battery are found out the back, and obviously that motor is found up the front. Now, when you start this car up, it's nice and quiet. It's relaxed. I really like it. It always starts in hybrid mode, and there's a couple of different modes that go through here. The one we won't test on this review is the off-road mode, simply because that's just a pretty basic feature. That means that you tell the car you're going off-road, it raises the air suspension. So yes, this does have a 4-chamber air suspension, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it rides pretty well. The 21-inch wheels are a little bit bumpy for some bits and pieces of the road, so it's not super plush, but it is very comfortable and feels very robust over lots of bits and pieces of road. But it's just when you hit those sort of steeper potholes, that's when you'll feel this car sort of bounce a bit more harsh thanks to those bigger wheels, and the fact this thing is pretty heavy because it has both a petrol and electric drivetrain. Now, I'm taking this on some fun driving roads because this has 450 horsepower. I keep saying that. This goes to 104.8 seconds. It's because partly, I think, part of me doesn't believe it's real. So yeah, starting off, we have all-wheel drive available. As you can sort of see, the back sort of kicks out sometimes if there's no grip, which is interesting. So that's because you got that electric drivetrain going towards the back wheels. Now we're in hybrid mode at the moment. Everything's sort of floaty, so the suspension's a bit floaty. The steering just feels not super all there. It's very guessy. It's very relaxing for day-to-day driving, but we'll chuck this into power mode, which will lower our air suspension and give us a bit more of an aggressive feedback on the suspension and the steering, and also give us plenty of power to play with. And now what I find really cool is that I normally talk about these plug-in hybrids as not being like the 918 Spider, which uses a plug-in hybrid system to then propel it even faster, but this definitely does. You get that low-end acceleration thanks to that battery, and also that top-end power thanks to that motor, and it does it in a performance-oriented way. Again, I don't know why Volvo doesn't market this more aggressively as a performance SUV. It really doesn't seem to shout that this is a fast performance car like that. So if I go through these corners, I'm getting an excellent amount of grip. And what really shocks me is that instant torque we're getting on the low end. Normally you're waiting for this thing to sort of charge up, but because we have a supercharger and a turbocharger available to us and an electric drivetrain system, this thing is not short of being responsive at all. So it's sort of going the complete opposite end of a naturally aspirated engine. It has every possible assist thrown at it, and it goes very nicely. So if you sort of plant your foot down and you go 3, 2, 1, sometimes it can take a little while to sort of respond, but it seems like if you feed that throttle on nice and easy instead of stamping it, you do get a bit of a better response from the car. Now, the steering isn't super, it's not loaded with feedback, let's just say that. And going through a corner here, even though we've got a lower suspension, it's a bit more stiff, I sort of feel like I can sort of twist my hands a little bit without it sort of upsetting the car at all, meaning that we sort of have still plenty of dead zone in this car. But this is what I love about this Volvo, is that really, you know, it doesn't have to be the perfect scalpel instrument. It is a family SUV after all, but you can make the most of the electric drivetrain by obviously having it sip the petrol, and right now we're averaging 3.3 litres per 100 Ks. And that's the highest I've seen it on this trip that I've done today to film this vehicle. I saw it as low as 0.9 litres, and that's why you want to keep that battery topped up. As soon as that battery dies, only have 7 kilometers worth of range left. You either have to charge it, which then uses more petrol, or you'll lose your battery power, so this thing doesn't have over 400 horsepower. Instead, it drops down below that, becomes a bit more mundane to drive. So yeah, I would always make sure that battery is topped up when you can if you want to make the most of this vehicle, which is also a bit of a downside because you sort of have to make sure that you're doing a nice balanced effort between having enough battery and also, you know, having enough range to drive on pure electric power and also having enough range to drive on hybrid power. Now the brakes are pretty good in here as well. If I had to do an emergency stop, they hook up nice and quick. They are pretty responsive there. And so yeah, overall, this is a wonderful vehicle. And I also do appreciate that you can activate constant all-wheel drive so you don't have the car deciding for you when to put down power, which is pretty cool. Now look, this is the car for people who've come up to me in the past and gone, Cameron, I want a car that's not petrol or diesel or like a normal hybrid. I like the idea of an electric car, but I don't want an electric car, but I don't like charging, and I'm not too sure about what's out in the market. I'm not too sure if that range will take me where I want to go. Well then, stop, check this thing out. That's if your budget allows it though, because the thing is pretty expensive. But if you're in this sort of budget for a car anyway, then I would say that this is a pretty decent option because 1, you're getting performance, 2, you're getting that luxury experience, but 3, you're not going to be consuming a whole bunch of petrol, and you always get addicted to see how low you can get that consumption figure. I saw mine as low as 0.9 litres per 100 Ks, but then yeah, you want to make sure that battery is charged every day because otherwise you're just lugging around an extra battery pack. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Cameron, and I'll see you in the next one.